At first glance, this may look like an ordinary CRV that you see every day. It is not. This is the new 2020 Honda CRV Hybrid, and it is the first hybrid ever for a Honda CRV. How is it different? Well, keep watching and find out. First, I want to give big thanks to Honda of Laos, which made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Honda, make sure you check them out. Their URL is in the description below. Today, I'm finally behind the wheel of a 2020 Honda CRV Hybrid. Yes, this is the very first hybrid ever for the Honda CRV. So let's start with the most important things that you guys are probably wondering about: the engine and fuel economy. Starting with the engine, you have two. You have a gas 2-liter VTEC engine paired with electric motor, and then there's also electric generator in between. Total, you're getting 212 horsepower, which is 22 horsepower more than the non-hybrid. As for fuel economy, well, you're going to get 40 miles per gallon in the city, 35 on the highway, and combined you're getting 38 miles per gallon, which is a huge increase over the regular CRV. However, when you're comparing the horsepower output and the fuel economy, it trails its biggest rival, the RAV4 Hybrid. The RAV4 Hybrid gets 39 miles per gallon combined and gets 219 horsepower. So it does trail them a little bit. However, the CRV has many advantages over the RAV4. I already reviewed a CRV before, the Touring Edition. I felt like it did everything well, and those things carry over to the Hybrid Edition. So during my drive, I'm going to tell you guys what those things are, why so many people flock to CRVs, and why it's such a good SUV. So on the outside, the biggest change you'll notice right away is the hybrid badges. You'll notice one on the back and also one on each side. Also, the Honda emblem, both the front and the rear, they have this blue insert within. There is one other thing, it's very subtle and most people miss this, is the LED fog lights, they have been replaced. On the non-hybrid CRVs, the fog lights is just round. Either it's LED or it's not, but both of them are round. This one, however, you get a strip of LED fog lights on both sides. Interesting enough, I just did a review video on a CRV Black Edition that's out in Canada, and that's one of the things that they have. They have gotten that already, but somehow the US versions didn't, but now Honda decided to put it on the hybrid. So you do see that, but on the outside, that's pretty much it. You're not gonna notice anything else besides the hybrid badges, the emblems being blue, and the different styled LED fog lights. Okay, I would say I can feel difference in terms of this being a little bit more lively than the non-hybrid, the regular gas engine that's pushing 190 horsepower. It's a little bit more lively than that, but still, I'm not gonna lie, it took a long time to get up to 60. It's definitely not a quick SUV, and this engine doesn't compare to, like, say, the turbo offering in a CX-5. It's nowhere near that kind of output, but you do get a slight improvement with acceleration with this hybrid setup. So I mentioned the things that you'll notice on the outside that's different on the hybrid. What about on the inside? Well, starting with the trunk, one big one is there's no spare tire anymore. That's right. There's just not enough room. So the battery pack is actually in the back. So what Honda did was remove the spare tire. They give you like this inflatable pump thing as an emergency. So just keep that in mind. What about up here? Well, there's two big changes and one that I'm not a fan of, and let's start with that. And that is the shifter has been changed to Honda's push button shifting, which you see across Honda's lineup. You see that in the Pilot, the Ridgeline, the Odyssey. Basically, every car or SUV or truck that Honda sells, except the CRV. CRV actually still uses a regular shifter, and I like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but Honda decided to go this different route with the button style, and unfortunately it carried into the CRV Hybrid. I don't know why you need to go this route. I'm just not a fan of it, and I know a lot of people through the comments, I could tell they're not a fan of it either. So that's one big change up here. The other one is the gauge cluster, and this is definitely needed. So this one is focused on battery and charging and all that good stuff that relates to the CRV Hybrid. So starting on the left side, you actually have a battery charge gauge. It'll tell you if your battery is fully charged or getting low. It'll never drop to zero, at least from my experience. Every time it drops close to all the way to the low level, you'll hear the gas engine start up. So I'm sure Honda programmed this in a way where it'll fluctuate up and down, but it'll never go to zero. The more you take your foot off the gas, the more the regenerative braking works, and you'll see that go up a lot more. I've noticed that during my drive. And the regenerative braking is actually very subtle in this CRV Hybrid. In some of the other cars I've tested, for example, the Highlander Hybrid, also in Teslas, you could feel it a lot more and you could hear a lot more. In this CRV Hybrid, I do hear this subtle whine, and that you'll hear right away. But in terms of the CRV coming to a halt as fast as those two, no, it doesn't. It actually kind of rolls to a stop normally. You don't really feel the CRV come to a stop any quicker, but you do see it in the gauge cluster on top. There's this big kind of like band where it'll show you if you're utilizing the gas motor, and when you're not, if you're charging, it'll go in the reverse way. So it'll tell you if you're charging or not. So you'll definitely see it and you'll hear it, but you don't really feel it, surprisingly. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So I highlighted the changes on the CRV Hybrid, and maybe some of you guys are bummed out by the fact that this CRV Hybrid doesn't get better fuel economy numbers or more power than the rival RAV4 Hybrid. But other things that make the CRV so good and so popular is still here. And this is a fantastic, fantastic SUV. So let's start with the back, starting with the trunk cargo room. The CRV provides one of the biggest cargo rooms for this class, the compact SUV class. Honestly, this should not be called a compact SUV. The amount of cargo room and overall space for passengers, this is really, this should really be considered a mid-size SUV. And if you fold down the second row, it's absolutely huge. Second row is enormous as well. I'm 5'10", and take a look. I have probably 8 inches of leg room. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be a compact SUV. That is more leg room than some of the mid-size SUVs I've tested. It is absolutely enormous. With me, I also have about 45 inches of headroom. There's plenty of width. The seats are comfortable. The seats are not adjustable, but it is very spacious back there. And passengers get a pair of USB ports and vents, and it's very nice. It's very nice back there. And up front, in terms of space, same thing. Plenty of headroom, plenty of shoulder room, hip room. It is big up here. The center console, the armrest area, is one of the best I've ever seen. Honda spent so much time on it. It's been redesigned for 2020, and it's just really clever. Other things that make the CRV so good is the drive. This is a very comfortable SUV. The suspension does an amazing job at soaking up all the bumps. You really don't feel much. It is very, very comfortable. Also, very quiet. Now, today's a windy day, so I do hear more when I'm traveling up to speed, but normally it is very quiet in the CRV. You don't hear much wind noise, road noise, or cars passing by. However, I will say the hybrid is a little bit louder because you do hear the regenerative braking. Actually, I hear that all the time. You do hear this whine So it is slightly louder in the hybrid, but overall it's still very quiet. And keep in mind that I have the radio off. So most of you guys will be blasting radio and you won't hear any of these things. Also, in terms of seating position and visibility, fantastic in the CRV. I can see well over the hood, big windshield, big side windows, the blind spot is good. And you get Honda Sensing Standard, which is driver assistant features, safety features that you don't have to pay extra for. There's still some manufacturers that force you to pay extra. You don't have to in here. So adaptive cruise control, lane assist, emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, all that is included. Auto high beam, so you don't have to worry about any of that. The CRV is definitely safe. And with the hybrid, all hybrids actually get all-wheel drive. Now, the non-hybrids, you could select front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and there's a $1,500 upcharge if you wanted all-wheel drive. But with the hybrids, every single one is with all-wheel drive, so you don't have to worry about it. The hybrid costs $2,700 more than a non-hybrid at the same trim level. So if you're looking at an EX, EXL, Touring, so at the same trim level, hybrid versus non-hybrid, you're talking about $2,700 difference, which some of you guys may be thinking, well, that's a lot. But I just mentioned all-wheel drive normally costs about $1,500. So the difference between a hybrid and a non-hybrid all-wheel drive version is only $1,200. So if you look at it that way, this is actually fantastic. Now, in terms of braking, normally CRVs or all Hondas, the braking is good. It's a linear feel, and it catches, right in between, doesn't catch on too quick or late. I will say on the hybrid, it's a little bit stiffer and it catches on a little bit earlier. So just subtle differences like that. Now, in terms of the steering, this is the same. It's a little vague. It feels like power steering. But overall, you do get a good weight to it. It doesn't feel too light. It has a good weight to it, and it's pretty precise. So even little movements like this, I could feel it in the CRVs. It is heavy. It has a good, precise feeling, but it still does feel a little vague and artificial. The infotainment screen, I feel like it's a little bit outdated now. Honda's been using kind of the same setup, the same graphical interface for a while, although for a few years they took away the volume knob and then they brought it back. Compared to some of the others in this class that I've tested recently, it's definitely not the most responsive. The resolution is not the sharpest, right? And the functionality isn't the greatest. So the infotainment screen, I would say, is due for an upgrade. Hopefully the next generation, that gets a lot better. Last year, I created a video called Best Compact SUVs of 2020, and I listed the Honda CRV up there as one of the best ones, and that hasn't changed. I already mentioned about how spacious it is in here, the great drive, the standard safety features, and all that is still in here. But with the hybrid, you get a little bit more power, so that's a plus, and you get better fuel economy, and that's also a big plus. So the CRV hybrid, in my opinion, has just gotten better.
Lastly, let's talk about the good and bad to this brand new CRV hybrid. Starting with the good. The CRV hybrid has a good exterior look. It has a ton of space on the inside. It is also very quiet and comfortable. There's a well-designed cabin within. The hybrid drivetrain provides more horsepower and provides better fuel economy. And the price increase for the hybrids is only $1,200 over the non-hybrid all-wheel drive trims. As for the bad, there's a few things as well. You do lose the spare tire. You also lose some cargo room. The infotainment screen is a little bit dated. The regenerative braking, there's a whine to it. And also the brakes feel a tad stiff. Overall, the 2020 Honda CRV Hybrid is a fantastic SUV, and I'm giving it a score of 101, which is tied for number 1 in the compact SUV segment. To see how it ranks, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and check out these other videos.